This wasn't just another Premier League match. No, this was 90 minutes of football that was really decided by 7 minutes of pure chaos, 5 minutes of an agonizing review, and one absolutely furious confrontation right at the final whistle. So let's break down exactly how Newcastle pulled off this stunning win against Manchester City.
And we're going to start not at kickoff, but at the very end of the match, because that's where the fireworks really went off. The final whistle blows, and there he is, Pep Guardiola, one of the greatest managers ever, walking straight onto the pitch, right for the referee, Sam Barrett. I mean, you can just feel the tension coming off this image.
So, what on earth happened? What could possibly push one of football's sharpest tactical minds to that breaking point? Well, that's what we're here for. We're going to unpack all the key moments, all the action, and all of the controversy that led right up to this dramatic finish.
And yeah, this was way more than just a quiet word. Pep was visibly angry, and you can see his players were right there with him. It was just this scene of pure, unfiltered frustration.
But here's where it gets really interesting. Despite all that fury we saw on the pitch, when the cameras were rolling for his post-match interview, Guardiola was incredibly buttoned up. He just said, "Nothing. Everything is fine." A simple, totally controlled response that, let's be honest, did very little to hide the storm that was clearly brewing just beneath the surface.
So, how did we even get to this point? To really get why Pep was so mad, we've got to rewind to the 63rd minute of a game that, believe it or not, had been pretty quiet up until then.
Honestly, for over an hour, this match was a story of what-ifs and almosts. Both teams had these golden opportunities, but the finishing, it was just off. It really felt like one of those games that was just destined for a scoreless, totally forgettable draw. And then, boom, everything just completely changed.
All of a sudden, the game just exploded. At 63 minutes, Harvey Barnes puts Newcastle ahead. Then, just 2 minutes later, a really scrappy goal from Ruben Diaz makes it 1-1 for City. But the chaos isn't over. At the 70-minute mark, it's Barnes again. 3 goals in just 7 minutes flipped a goalless game completely on its head.
But see, this match wasn't just about the goals. It was really about the controversial calls that fueled all that anger we saw at the end. And that means, you guessed it, we need to talk about VAR, the video assistant referee.
Okay, so the first big moment of contention came pretty early, back in the 18th minute when it was still 0-0. City's Phil Foden goes down in the box under a challenge from Fabian Schär. The City players, as you can imagine, are absolutely screaming for a penalty, but the referee just waves it away, and VAR backed him up.
And here's the thing, this was far from a simple call. Even the experts watching were completely split. You had Manchester United legend Wayne Rooney saying, "Yeah, that's a penalty." But then you had former Newcastle defender Jonathan Woodgate saying the exact opposite. And that division just shows you how tough of a call it really was.
But look, that penalty debate was practically nothing compared to the drama around Newcastle's winning goal. After Barnes scored, the entire game just came to a screeching halt for a VAR check that lasted nearly 5 long, agonizing minutes for everyone watching.
So VAR had this whole tangle of issues to sort out in one single play. They had to check for 2 potential offsides. Both were incredibly tight calls. And then the big one, a potential foul on the Man City goalkeeper, Gianluigi Donnarumma, who was absolutely livid. In the end, after all that time, VAR cleared all 3 incidents, and the goal was given.
Over in the TV studio, former City defender Micah Richards was pretty direct about it. He felt that, yeah, there was some contact, but for a keeper of Donnarumma's size and stature, he's just got to be stronger there. In his eyes, it just wasn't enough to be a foul.
But on the pitch, the feeling was completely different. Man City defender Ruben Diaz was just incensed, and he was questioning the consistency of the rules themselves. He felt the keeper was clearly pushed, and in his words, you can hear the pure, boiling frustration of the entire team.
So, with the game over and the dust settling, what did this dramatic, controversial result actually mean for the 2 clubs involved? All right, let's take a look at the real consequences of this clash.
Well, the immediate impact was huge. For Manchester City, it was a massive missed opportunity to close the gap on the league leaders, leaving them 4 points adrift. But for Newcastle, this was a lifeline. This win vaulted them right up the table, giving them some much-needed breathing room, a 4-point cushion from that dreaded relegation zone.
And for a club like Manchester City, this defeat was way more than just one bad result. In fact, it marked their worst start to a Premier League season in 5 years. And that started to raise some early, and for their fans, kind of worrying, questions about their title defense.
But was this all just about VAR and controversy? Not according to pundits like Jamie Redknapp. He pointed to Newcastle's performance as the real story. He gave all the credit to their power and their intensity, calling it a huge, well-deserved victory.
And for Newcastle's manager, Eddie Howe, this was a massive personal moment. It was his first ever league victory against a team managed by the legendary Pep Guardiola. That broke a really long drought for him and made the win that much sweeter.
And of course, you can't talk about this game without talking about the hero of the day, Harvey Barnes. Even though he'd missed some pretty good chances earlier in the match, he kept his cool to score those 2 massive goals. His manager praised that mental toughness, saying he's a player who just never gets rattled, a quality that was on full display here.
And so after all is said and done, we're left with this big lingering question. Was this a tactical masterclass from Eddie Howe and a story about Newcastle's sheer will to win, or was this a game that was ultimately decided by inches, by interpretations, and by the ever-present, ever-controversial eye of VAR? The answer, a lot like the game itself, is anything but simple, and it's a debate that's going to rage on for a long, long time.